The hawk wind came off the lake and knifed down Ashland, turning every breath into a dare. Malik pulled his hood tight and shifted the gym bag on his shoulder, the straps squeaking against salt-stiff fabric. St. Brigid's looked abandoned from the street. Brownstone Church shuttered for years, the parish gym lingering as a city contract and a rumor. He punched the door code Coach Riley had texted and stepped into warm dust. The floorboards remembered every cut he'd ever made. The varnish had darkened to the color of coffee, and the crooked St. Brigid Bruins at Centre Court was almost swallowed by scuffs. Lights hummed. Under the far hoop, a milk crate of dead balls waited like skulls in a net. Malik caught himself palming one, feeling the pebble pattern like braille. He'd played his whole life in places like this. Scraped knees, rubber-burned palms, the echoing slap of 5 men believing for 2 hours they were invincible. "About time," Hovey called, stepping out from behind the bleachers with Deshawn, both in layered hoodies. "Thought the Hawk carried you to Indiana." "Train stalled at Addison," Malik said. "Wind got hands tonight." Lena came through last, their team's manager by necessity and Malik's sister by blood, cheeks raw from the cold. "Space heaters busted in the office," she said, tossing a roll of white athletic tape on the scorer's table. "If we don't move, I'm going to turn into a monument." Coach Riley emerged in a puff of breath and peppermint, clapping. 60 ex-firemen, body like a refrigerator that had seen fires. "City rec finals in 3 weeks," he said. "We're not losing to bums from Little Village. Layups. Talking. Eyes up." They ran lines until lungs scratched. The ball sounded wrong, hollow and punctured, until it didn't. Rhythm returned, the comfort of repetition. But something else returned too, a shadow of a habit Malik hadn't let himself keep, glancing toward the entrance, half expecting a late arrival. It was always the same face in his head. Eric, laughing, shoulders loose, a green rubber wristband he'd snapped before free throws. Eric had been shot 11 years ago, the spring after they won City. Wrong time, wrong corner, right kid gone. During a water break, Malik walked the baseline and noticed pale excess on the wood, like someone had chalked them in a grid. He crouched. The marks weren't chalk. They were clean spots in the grime, 4 inches apart, climbing the lane like a ladder. "Who did floor markings?" he asked. Lena squinted. "I didn't. Looks like shoe prints without the shoe." "Run it from the top," Coach barked. "Horns set." "Malik, you're the trigger." They ran horns. Malik dribbled to the right elbow, flipped to Hovey, then planted, pivoted, felt a tug in his left Achilles, and rose for the bank he could make with eyes closed. The ball grazed front iron and died. He blinked, reset. Hovey looked at him like, "You okay?" On the next rep, the ball came off his fingers and swung wide, then arced mid-air, changing just enough to kiss the glass at a strange angle and drop through like it had fallen down a well. All of them stopped. Even Coach's whistle hung quiet. "Wind," Deshawn said, trying to laugh. "Jim's a draft box." "In a building with no windows?" Lena said. They played through it. Twice more the ball took an odd bend and softened into the net. Sweat stung Malik's eyes. He wiped his face and glanced toward the entrance again, reflex not reason, and caught a shape at the threshold of light. A kid-sized silhouette in a tattered practice jersey, number 32 ghosted in peeling ink. "Door," Malik said, sprinting. He reached it as the silhouette tilted its head and stepped backward into the dark hallway. The door banged, the cold shoved in. The hall was empty. Just bulletin boards with curled flyers for coat drives long over, the smell of wet cement, and the low electrical buzz of old buildings that refused to die. Back in the gym, Coach was chewing the whistle. "Not funny," he said. "I saw someone." "No one's here," Coach said. Let's focus up. Championship teams don't chase shadows. They finished weary and quiet, the kind of quiet that pretends it's about fatigue. After they changed, Malik lingered. The clean excess on the floor kept climbing, a ladder made of absence, and he couldn't shake the sense that somebody had already diagrammed their night. He put a ball off the glass, light as a prayer. It touched, dropped, and the net whispered the way nets do when they accept a thing like they were made to. Outside, the wind shoved him sideways. Somewhere between St. Bridget's and the bus stop on Chicago Avenue, his phone buzzed with a missed call from an unknown number. He ignored it, but the voicemail notification stacked. 3, then 4. The hawk cut through his coat, and the city's lights smeared into lines on wet pavement, and he thought, if this is grief sharpening its teeth again, at least let it be honest. The next game was at the Park District Gym in Pilsen, brick and glass and posters about nutrition taped up crooked. Snow turned to slush along 18th Street. By tip, the bleachers rattled with neighborhood noise, kids in puffy coats, moms with foam cups of coffee, old heads talking Bulls roster moves loud enough to count as prayer. Malik laced his shoes tight enough to feel the pulse in his toes. The referee's whistle carved the air. First possession, first cut, sweat thawing the cold out of him. They were playing the Southside Kings, a team of men with tattoo sleeves and quiet eyes. The Kings ran a patient offense built on back screens and bruises. Midway through the second quarter, tied at 20, it started again. Malik came off a curl, rose, released, and the ball flew 2 inches wide of where physics said it should. It veered like something nudged it and slid into the basket with a little sigh, net brushing like fingers. "Shooters roll," Hovey grinned, tapping the back of Malik's head. "Keep feeding him." But it wasn't roll. It was as if the ball had a destination unrelated to his hands. 2 plays later, Deshaun shot a corner 3 that should have clanged and instead kissed the front rim, hopped, and trickled in like deciding yes at the last second. The crowd made that noise Chicago crowds make when superstition lifts the room. Half laugh, half are we for real. Then the scoreboard glitched. For 1 second, every digit on the clock and score flashed 32. Lena, at the table entering subs, pulled her hands back like she'd touched a hot pan. "Anyone else see that?" she asked the scorekeeper. He tapped the display with a Bic pen and pretended nothing happened. Time out. They huddled, steam rising. Coach's face had that map of bottle cap veins it got when his blood pressure was a story. "They're hedging hard on the right," he said. "So we slip. And Malik, stop showboating." "I'm not." "Then stop thinking about whatever you're thinking about. I need you here." Back out, Malik stood at the free throw line and read the nail-mark divot from years of shoes. He thought, stupidly, of Eric's wristband, the green one that said luck in block letters, the U half rubbed away so it looked like Elsa. Eric would snap it twice before shots. Malik had the band at home in a cigar box with ticket stubs and coins from places he couldn't afford to visit. He found himself snapping his bare wrist. He felt ridiculous, then not. The ball left his fingers, wobbled, corrected itself, and fell. They won by 4, and nobody celebrated like it mattered. After, in the hallway, Lena grabbed Malik's sleeve. "Your phone's been buzzing non-stop," she said. "Unknown number. 5 missed calls. 3 voicemails." He put one to his ear. The message was 12 seconds of sneaker squeak in a cavernous gym and a single voice saying his name the way it had been said 1,000 times in 1,000 drills. Mal, not Malik. Mal. The voice was brighter than memory let it be. He swallowed. "Eric." Lena went pale. "Don't." A Kings player brushed past, arm cold with sweat. "Hell of a shot, 40, he said. "You got angels." "Don't say that," Malik said, sharper than he meant. The guy's eyebrows lifted. He shrugged and kept walking. The L roared past outside, shaking the glass. Malik left voicemails unplayed and walked to the end of the corridor, where a poster for a blood drive flapped in the heating vent's breath. Someone had written in Sharpie along the bottom edge in small, respectful letters, "We miss you 32. Eric's number. Not a rare number. Not a rare sentiment. The city is a quilt of memorials that become background." They took the Green Line west after the game, their gear bags wedged between feet and strollers. In the window's reflection, Malik saw himself with the weary eyes he remembered from senior year. Hungry, haunted, hopeful. At Clinton, he caught a shape on the platform that made his heart sprint. A kid in a grey practice jersey, 32 peeling, headphones around his neck, looking straight at him and smiling like he'd been waiting on the same train for 11 years. Malik stood as the doors slid shut. The kid raised a palm as if to call a play. The train pulled away. The platform folded into lines. "Who are you waving at?" Harvey asked. "A ghost," Malik said. "Or me." He felt Lena's hand find his sleeve again. Her fingers were shaking. Back home he finally played the last voicemail, because that's what you do when a wound asks to be reopened. The same 12 seconds of court sound, then. Left hand. Always left. You know that. Eric's coaching voice. Teasing and true. The timestamp said it was recorded at 2:31 a.m. from a number registered to a payphone. Payphones in the city were nearly extinct. He didn't sleep, and when he did, he dreamed in layup lines, climbing clean white excess that led nowhere. Morning came like a bruise with a clock in it. The messages waited. He didn't press play. Morning brought the kind of grey that cancels depth. Streets turned to pallets of salt and damp. Malik called in late to his shift at the logistics warehouse and walked to the corner bodega under the tracks, where the owner kept a corkboard of lost dogs and condolences. The man slid him a coffee. "You look like you saw the devil," he said without irony. "I saw tape on the floor," Malik said, "and heard an old friend." "Chicago is an echo chamber," the man replied, counting quarters. "You step in the right place. You hear what you left there." Between sips, Malik opened a tab he hadn't in years. News clippings about Eric's shooting. After city finals, after the hallway parade, after scholarships were dangled like keys, Eric had walked his cousin to a bus stop. 2 men argued across the street. 1 gun, 1 burst. "Wrong corner," people said. The case froze at the level where freezer burn erases taste. In message boards there were whispers about a bet that had gone sideways. About Riley's brother, about money owed, about a last play called to please someone with a ledger. Malik had refused to chase rumors back then because rumors are a second death. Now he read until the coffee went cold. He rode to Coach's apartment in Bridgeport. The hallway smelled like pasta water and old smoke. Coach answered in a white t-shirt and socks, face unshaven. A college game murmured on TV with the sound down. A photograph on the shelf showed Coach younger, arm over Eric's shoulders, both of them squinting into spring sun. The grief in Malik's throat turned to grit. "You ever get voicemails from dead kids?" Malik asked. Coach blinked. "What?" "Someone's leaving me messages from a payphone." Eric's voice. "We're seeing things in gyms. Scoreboards doing things. The number 32. Coach's face went the color old men go when their blood shifts. "You came here to scare me? I buried that boy. I carried his mother's groceries for 6 months. I kept you all in school. Don't bring ghosts into my house. I'm bringing facts." Malik stepped toward the mantel. "People said there were bets back then. People said you called that last play because Because it was the right play. Coach's eyes lit with a dangerous hurt. You think I'd sell you boys? Jesus. He steadied his breathing. You hear a voice, you get some sleep. We got St. Bridget's tonight until the city locks it. Last run before they turn it into condos. 8 p.m. Don't be late. Malik left with anger under his skin and a heavier question. He knew what grief could do to hearing. He knew how winter could brain you with loneliness. He also knew when a lie had a seam. That night, the gym was colder than before, a cold with intent. The old boiler moaned and coughed. They ran through sets wearing hats until sweat made the wool itch. The lights flickered, then steadied. From the office came the CO detector's thin chirp, an alarm Malik had heard in stories about families who went to sleep and didn't wake. He felt the edge of a headache he'd blamed on not eating. Lena's breath fogged with worry. We should go, she said. 15 more, Coach said. City's gonna bulldoze this place. Let it hear us. The chirp tightened to a whine. They ran anyway. Vision tunneled. On a baseline out of bounds, Malik felt his knee wobble, and then there was a click at the double doors like a chain being drawn. He looked up. A silhouette stood there again, not a kid this time but a taller figure in a coat, face a smear against the backlight. Hey! Malik shouted. The figure didn't move. The doors creaked. Something scraped the floor like metal. Hovey swore. Who's locking us in? Lena ran for the office phone and came back with it dead. No line. She lifted her cell where bars should be. Nothing. They went to the doors. The chain was real and new, not church equipment, bright where winter gloves hadn't dulled it. Through the glass, Malik saw a reflection of himself, a pale guy with sweat frozen at his temples, and behind it, a darker thing he didn't want to name. You think this is a prank? Deshawn asked, voice high. Coach moved with a burst of old strength, grabbed a fire axe from the emergency case, and chopped the chain like a man chopping down an accusation. Sparks spat. The second hit opened them. Cold revered in. The figure outside stepped back into the hallway and was gone like the heat from a hand when the hand is removed. They stumbled out under the exit sign's green authority. On the sidewalk, everything was ordinary again. A bus sighing, someone laughing on a phone, the lift and metal scream of the L. Lena put a hand to Malik's forehead. You're burning, she said. You're light-headed. She looked at the gym's vent, coughing exhaust, and went very still. Carbon monoxide, she whispered. We're idiots. It fit. It explained the headaches, the vertigo, the skewed shots, the voices that might have been memory misfiring. It explained everything except the chain, and except how a number they thought belonged to the past kept flashing through the present like a play call no one could ignore. They moved the next 2 practices to Malcolm X College, a gym with fresh paint and working detectors and a hum that belonged to the living. The rec finals against the Southside Kings were set for Friday night. The city salted Jackson so hard people tracked white footprints into the lobby. The air had that game night electricity, all the stubborn superstitions alive at once. Lucky socks, lucky parking spots, the stretch you always do because the one time you didn't, your ankle sang. Coach paced more than usual. He didn't look at Malik. At 5 minutes to tip, he disappeared. Lena went to find him and came back with an empty shrug. Maybe bathroom, she said, trying to keep her voice from wobbling. They won the first half with defense. At halftime, standing near the equipment closet, Malik saw a board propped against the wall with their horns set drawn in blue marker. Over the top, in faint pencil, was a different play. A backdoor slip with a note in a handwriting he knew from old notebooks. Take what they give you. Eric's loopy E. He touched the pencil and it smudged. It could have been a bored student worker-doodling, sure. It could have been nothing. He could have been a child again, wanting the world to send easy answers. Third quarter, the Kings punched back. Elbows, lower backs, patience. The score stuck like gum, 51-51 with 60 seconds. The gym got that cold silence loud crowds get when prayer outweighs noise. Malik took a handoff on the right wing and waited. The Kings overplayed. Harvey cut. Deschamps sealed. The slip was there like a door someone forgot to close. Malik took it and rose, and in the instant between rising and releasing he thought of the chain on St. Bridget's doors, of the CO alarm, of the way grief can move a man into seeing design where there's only time. The ball left him wrong. It was short. It was nothing. And then it leaned, kissed glass with a soft, almost apologetic sound, and fell like it had been guided by a hand that wasn't there. 53-51. The scoreboard didn't glitch. The digits held. Timeout Kings. In the huddle, Lena pressed a paper cup of water into Malik's hand. "If this is a ghost, it's a good one," she said through wet eyes that were also laughing. He wanted to say, "Or it's all us finally doing the thing we practiced." He wanted to say, "I'm scared of what winning means when the past is still a door." Back out. 20 seconds. King's ball. A guard with a bruised mouth drove and kicked. Corner 3. It arced honest and headed home. Malik jumped without hope and felt the ball skim his fingertips enough to shift a hair. It hit the front rim, teetered, and rolled off. Deschamps boarded like a man owed money and was fouled. 2 shots. He made one. They won by 3. During the handshakes, a cop car slid slow past the glass doors, lights dull, no siren. Lena squeezed Malik's arm too tight. "Don't check your phone," she said, which meant yes, check your phone. There was a voicemail time-stamped 10 minutes before tip from an unknown number tied to a payphone the internet said had been removed 2 years ago. The message was short. "I'm not mad," the voice said. It wasn't him. Police tape bloomed outside the side entrance a half-hour later. Word moved the way word always moves. In pieces, in guesses, in shapes that might fit. They found Coach by the tracks 2 blocks away, where the L throws down shadows big enough to live in. He had fallen or jumped or been pushed, or maybe he had simply sat and let the cold finish what winter started. In his coat pocket was a folded envelope with Malik's name, the paper gone soft from being touched. Inside was a photograph from that city run and a note in careful block letters. "I should have protected you boys better." No one mentioned bets. No one mentioned debts. The apology was big enough to hide in. The cops asked questions. That's what cops do. Malik answered the ones he could. Yes, Coach had debts once. No, no one had ever confessed. Yes, the detector worked where they practiced now. No, he didn't know who chained St. Bridget's doors. Lena drove him home. Snow sifted. The city made the sounds it makes when everyone is inside trying not to be alone. In the quiet of Malik's apartment, he put Eric's wristband around his own wrist, felt the dry give of old rubber, and snapped it twice. Somewhere outside, the L floated another train over the dark like a line drawn by a child who won't give up on straightening it. He played the last voicemail until the words wore smooth. Weeks later, he went back to St. Bridget's out of stubbornness. The gym was open to daylight now, roof half peeled. Pigeons made their own sets in dust. On the floor, across the lane, the clean excess had multiplied in the pattern of lay-up lines and closeouts, invisible until you knew to look, like the city's map of grief. He stood at the free-throw line and, because no one was there to see, he tossed the ball he'd brought and let it bounce off the backboard and into the basket with a sound so simple it made his throat ache. On his way out, A contractor waved him past wires and ladders. "Place is coming down," the man said. "Whole block's going to be new." "Yeah," Malik said. He stepped into the wind. It was honest and sharp and had nothing in it except cold. On the walk to the bus, he looked for the outline of a kid in a 32 jersey and found only his own shadow moving with him, an echo that kept pace. That night before sleeping, he put Coach's letter back in the envelope and slid it under the cigar box lid. He didn't know if the past was a haunting or a health hazard. He didn't know if the ball had ever really moved. He knew the smell of old gyms and the sound of nets when they accept a thing like they were made to, and he knew he would keep playing, because sometimes the only way to talk to the people you've lost is to run the set the way they drew it, to take what the defense gives, to trust that physics and faith might, for 1 second, be the same thing.